What's up, everyone? Michael Ray here, and then we have a special episode. So this is actually from my front desk talk at SERUCA, which is back in November 2025 down in New Orleans. I go through the importance of a front desk in terms of why they're not just your customer service type position. They have sales pieces added into that. And I'd love for you to take a listen and say, is my front desk doing these things or are they not? So take a listen. If you got any thoughts, send us an email at hello@patient-care-marketing-pros.com, and hope you enjoy. Thanks. Hi, everyone. You already know me, but let's go through it. So, Michael Ray, I'm the VP of Operations at Patient Care Marketing Pros. I've been in the urgent care space now about 4.5 years. Been in the marketing space since 2011. And this talk was born out of necessity. So, our goal is to get patients in your door, but most of the time that comes through a phone call first or interaction somewhere. And we learned over time that the front desk can make or break your business to a very high degree, actually. We'll go through some stats, but it's one of those things that we're seeing, we may have gotten you tons of calls, but then your front desk is trying to diagnose them and then turn them away, or they're just telling them to come in and not telling them to book a time, and then they don't show up, of course. And so that's where this talk kind of was born out of. So a couple of things we're going to be going through today. It's kind of one, understand that your front desk person is not just a receptionist. They're much more than that, but you have to be proactive about that. So kind of going through go from front desk to more like this person can actually increase your revenue with your current situation, and then change their mindset from just answering questions, but being proactive and getting people coming into your door. So that's just the goal today, to kind of get that shift, and we're going to show examples of what that looks like. So first out of the gate, though, when it comes to customer experience, what's an example of customer service that was fantastic for you? It doesn't have to be an urgent care, it could be anything. Last time I did this talk, they had somebody said the airport was actually wonderful because they lost their luggage and they went the extra mile and even bought them new luggage, which was super cool. So for the guys here, what do you think? Is there something that comes to mind of a company that just went head over heels, like just did everything right for you and you're so surprised by? Yeah. Yeah, Ritz-Carlton's always good. And Ritz-Carlton's fascinating because they have like actual budgets to take care of people. But you think about it, it's the mindset, right? Where that individual person that may have gone the extra mile, that was trained somewhere. That wasn't just a simple good hire. Like that's their culture that they put into it. So that's where we want to be with our front desk. It's like it's part of the culture of your business. And if you're all about serving and taking care of people, well, you got to get them in there. And so that front desk is so important to that piece. But you're right, so that's a great one. Yeah, so and that's what we were just saying there. So as you mentioned, Chick-fil-A is actually one of my simple examples here. So this is just fun information to know when it comes to, you think of Chick-fil-A and you think of McDonald's, right? You think of Chick-fil-A as like this higher service quality, consistent. Technically, it's a pretty good sandwich, but it's not the best sandwich, but it works. But look at the revenue difference between the two, because if a Chick-fil-A almost double or more than doubles a McDonald's, but they're pulling from the same people, like who they hire is coming out of the same pool of people. They're technically going to a certain type of crowd. But why is it 2-to-1? Like but you think about the experience. Like for me, I have a child, I have a 6-year-old, and she may mention McDonald's, but if we're having a tough day, Chick-fil-A is going to be a much more consistent experience. She's going to get exactly what's ordered, and I'm not questioning what's coming up when I open that bag from McDonald's if it's the right thing or the wrong thing. So that is that mindset where I know the customer experience is going to be better, and so I'm going to lean into that more often. So that's where we're kind of going with the front desk, because they are the first touch of customer service, and it needs to be very proactive and very consistent. And what we've seen in the industry is just not, and so that's just where we want to be with that. And this is where the mindset shift starts to come in. So they're not just answering the phone, but they're taking those potential leads and they're saying, can I make you into a patient of some sort? Can I take the 5 seconds extra and ask the question, would you like to go ahead and come in? Can I get your information? I'll put you down for a time. Because it's so easy to say, hey, I'm busy. Yeah, just come in. We're open till this time, just come in. And that's just, it doesn't work. I mean, it's the same thing if you go to like Target and you're in the checkout line and they say, do you want to get a Target card? Like, well, no, I really don't. But if they didn't ask, I would never even think it existed in the first place. So it's the same simple concept, and I think people just overlook that. And then just like I was saying here, when we've had now a front desk that was not doing well, and then we trained them a little bit, or trained the trainer to train them more often, or they swapped in somebody who was doing well, their patient volume went up, just because the calls were already there. The patients were already available, but they weren't being pushed into the clinic, essentially. And that's just a huge, huge thing. Because we've even seen it now where we'll have 2 locations from the same company. One's doing amazing and the other one's not, but our data looks good. Then we go listen to calls and it becomes very apparent that one person doesn't care and the other one does care. And that's where all that starts to make the difference. But let's throw some numbers at it. Now, is this something you want to tell your front desk up front? Maybe, maybe not, to kind of give them an idea of what's happening here. So we know in our world that a call, for us to get you a call into your clinic, it's around $9 to $17 to get that call to come in. Through all the conversion costs, that's about where it lives. So we'll just call it $10 just for easy math. So if we have 30 calls flowing into your clinic, that's a $300 to $500 worth of potential leads that they could just be tossing away because they were too busy or didn't care or just simply hung up. We've seen that so many times where they'll just hang up and just not answer the phone at all because there's too much going on. We've seen it quite a bit. So it's that mindset of these are dollars being lost, but these are like, that's just the dollars being lost. It's not including the opportunity loss that could be happening. So let's say the 30 calls, if half of them became patients, well, that's a huge number that day. And that can make it from a good day and a bad day. So really simple. But I just want to paint the picture on the numbers. If you're having a conversation with your front desk person and they don't get it, you can say, well, this is what when that call comes in, this is what it's probably costing us for that call to show up. So that's where we want to focus on. So here's a real life example. This actually happened to a client of ours. I couldn't believe it, so that's why I want to make an example. I won't name names, but it is an urgent care in Florida. So not Louisiana, so we're good. But urgent care in Florida. So these are real numbers that actually happened. Complaint came to us. I need more patients. I need more patients. You said you can get me more patients. Cool. Let's go look at the data first. 427 calls were generated from our ads only for $5,000. $11.70 per call. Right in the sweet spot for us for what we know it's supposed to be working. Went to the recordings. Analyzed the recordings. 70% of calls went unanswered. 427 calls came in. 299 were just ignored. 299. And it wasn't simply it was going to the wrong number. It was going to the right number, and they just wouldn't answer it. But it became real interesting because he said, I don't have enough patients, but my staff's too busy. That's why they can't answer the phone. It's like, well, those two things can't exist together. They just can't, you know, but you hear it, right? You've heard this before. Your staff said, we're so busy. You're like, patient count says otherwise. Like, I don't know what you're busy with, but it's not this. And then the clinic owner was very open. He's like, yeah, they say they get busy, so they just can't get to all the calls. That's just unacceptable. Like, straight up, like, you're spending $5,000 and you're tossing away over 4,000 of it just because they don't want to answer the call. This is real. So this is something that we see a lot of. This is just a great example because it was very recent. So like 2 or 3 months ago, it was very real. And then I went in and listened to the calls and then sat down with him later and said, you have a problem. Your main front desk person is rude. You could tell in her tone she doesn't want to be there. She just wants to answer the call and just give the most blank answer she can and get off the phone. And then he says, well, and this urgent care has been around for 7-8 years. He said, well, she was my first hire. I'm like, yeah, the hire that you needed 5-7 years ago is not the hire you need today. And she's throwing away dollars. And not in addition to what's being missed. Because then they're on the same set of calls. There was a call like, man, this lady's really great. Yeah, that's my nurse practitioner. She was just filling in. Well, she's wonderful. We need her on the call more often. Because she was proactive, had good tone, you could tell she was smiling, all the things, and it made all the real difference there. So this is what matters because, you know, you could be spending tons of money on marketing, doing all the right things, but The second that phone call connects over and they pick up the phone and it's not a good experience, you just lost it. Because sadly, in our urgent care niche, there's no branding. They're not ready to, they don't know the urgent care from the next urgent care. They just know they need somebody now. And because of that, they're not gonna remember who they called. Or they say, yeah, it's over here in this shopping center. And they start driving that way and they see one that looks like the same one, and they pull in, don't even realize it. We've seen that plenty of times. So what does this boil down to? This is all the revenue leaks that you're seeing. Missed call is the wasted ad spend, it's also the wasted opportunities. The poor experience, so you guys have a lot of experience in good and bad reviews in your niche. And the challenge is that the bad review can start with the phone call. It can start with that when they walk into your clinic and that front desk is not having a good day. Like all these different things where the doctor may have done the right things, the nurses did the right things, the diagnosis was great, everything was good, but the way the front desk interacted was not good. You could tell they didn't want to be there. Then you lose that opportunity. They don't want to ask for a review because it's just not part of their job to ask. Like we hear that. So those are real opportunities there that can really cause disruptions for you. So anyway, so missing follow-up appointments is the loss. So, there's always that chance when they have a visit come on, it's that proactive piece of it. Can I get you coming back for, hey, you just came in for this, flu's coming up, love to get you to do a flu shot. Or you mentioned you had a child that plays sports, we're doing sports physicals, like these little extras that can make the difference just asking them to come back in. Because that repeat patient is worth a lot of money to you, but it's easily thrown away. So just things you have to think about. Okay? So let's talk about some best practices. So here's the shift, right? We're done with being a receptionist. We're more of a sales rep situation. Very proactive, doing all the right things, having the right conversations. This is not just a yes-no situation. And here's a great example of this, where passive is, yeah, come in. Do you guys take appointments? Sure, but just come on in. Which is probably the most common phrase we hear on most calls. We know they take appointments, and the person asks, can I make an appointment? And they'll say no, but just come on in. Are they gonna come in? Maybe, maybe not, right? So it's a challenge. So the proactive side is, yeah, I have a time today that works for you, let's go ahead and get you in. And then go ahead and say, right now it's 1 o'clock, if you wanna come in at 2 or 1:30, we have a slot for you, come on in. Let me get some basic information from you. It's just simple little adjustments. When I say 5 seconds, this is just an adjustment of phrasing that makes all the difference. A couple of quick wins though, when you talk to any of your people is always smile on the phone. This is like sales 101, smiling on the phone, have a nice warm tone. How are you today? If you can use their name if they can. And be proactive with all conversation, not just a very passive, yeah, thanks for calling, but I don't want to talk to you type of thing. So this is that shift, right? This is what starts to make the difference. So here's some real life examples. Once again, it's sad this is real, but it is. So here are a couple of things. Your clinic does appointment, but takes time for front desk on the phone. And this is the real situation. Do I need to make an appointment? We do, but come on in, just show up by 6:30 because we close at 7. And that's a very negative way of saying something, where you could just simply say, hey, can I get you down for 6:30 because I want to make sure you get taken care of before we close up at 7 o'clock and you're not running late. It's the same conversation, just turned a little bit. It's much more proactive. I'm probably going to say yes way more often than I'm going to say no to something like that. So just kind of think through that. For those who know your front desk, which route do they go? Do they say, please show up by 6:30 because we close at 7, or hey, we close at 7, just make sure you show up before 7? Which route do y'all train your people on? I'm curious.
We train them to say, so a lot of times it's for DOT physicals, and we'll say, come in by 6, where the provider can
Yeah.
give you the time you need to get your physical done prior to closing.
Right. Yeah, but the cool part is with that, you can say, hey, we're going to schedule for 6 o'clock so we have the whole time to take care of you. And that's way more inviting to, hey, just show up by this time, we'll see if it works out. So Way more inviting. And it does help for sure. Because we even had a clinic that all of their DOT calls, they told them appointment, they required the appointment, all these things. And then the second urgent care call came in, yeah, just come in when you want. And I went to the owner, I said, why is this so good on DOT but not so good on urgent care? He said, well, we require it. I was like, why can't you just require it for the rest? Like, just twist that a little bit to the rest of them, and then you'll be great. So that's one of the things, right? So you just have to be, consistent with that and just make it mandatory and just say, this is what we do every single time. So here's some other things. Example, this is a real example with a clinic, another clinic out of Florida, different one. So this was fascinating because the front desk just was making up pricing on the fly, which is really scary. And we didn't believe it because we were wondering, why is this person so upset on the call? And then we listened to the calls, and they had called more than once. On Thursday, how much are physicals? $125. Okay. On Friday, same front desk. How much physicals? $150. All right. Saturday, they're $100. Come on in. Well, I know, it's like, let's go show up Saturday, get the best deal. And obviously, that person is just throwing numbers out there. So if they did show up, it was not $100. It was probably $200. And what's that going to result in? A bad review, bad experience, and that patient doesn't want to be there, but they're already there, and then it just hurts you long term. And so that creates a trust issue. And so when you have a trust issue, it just makes it harder. And that's the thing too, like we see it quite a bit where the owner will tell us, this is the pricing we're having for our special, but they didn't communicate that very well to their front desk or any of their staff. And there's confusion that pops up very quickly. So these are things you have to make sure, like if I'm training people, how often am I training them? Is it just once a month, once a quarter? Am I updating them correctly on the things? So this is where it actually begins to matter. But it was the funny part, so that same front desk person that just made up pricing on the fly, there was another call that came through, and basically they said, I don't think we treat that. Okay, well we're actually in like an hour later from that call, we have a meeting with the owner, and we said, we thought you did this service. Oh, I do. Well, listen to this call. He listens to it. He's like, why? And so he said, what's the number? He calls that patient and says, hey, are you still in need of this? Yes, I am. Well, come in at this time and I'll take care of you. And they showed up. And it was just a simple callback because their front desk just simply threw somebody away. And I will say, in that same conversation with that owner, he said, well, this is my whatever operations person. Hey, we're about to fire this front desk person. It's real though, because they're just throwing away dollars. And it's so easy to overlook it because there's so much volume coming in. I don't have time to look at all these things, but you can find trends really quickly. When we review calls, within like 20 to 30 calls, you know what's going on and you know where the problems are. And we're very confident in that. So a couple other things that matter in the world of front desk. Always answer within three rings or less. There was one clinic that says they'd have a 1 ring policy, so it only rings one time and they have to answer it. That's a huge thing because for any of us, right, if I do 3 rings, are they open, right? That's a quick thought. Are they open? They're too busy right now. I'm just going to go to the next one because they can't pick up the phone. They must be busy, all different things. Next is if they can use the name. So if the name comes in or if it's like their phone system recognizes an existing patient at some point or they can connect the dots, or they even say, yeah, my name is Michael, cool. Hey, Michael, this is what we want to do for you. Just using your name kind of cleans it up a little bit because it allows them to feel more personal and it kind of buys them in a little bit more. Because that little bit of edge of buying in, it makes it that much easier to get them to say yes to come in. So use your name when you answer the phone and then use the potential patient name as well, and you're going to have a lot more conversation come out of that. Just feels more honest. Next is make sure you do have scripts ready to go. So if there's something they have very specific they're asking for, make sure they have the right information in front of them when they say it. They don't have to follow it verbatim, but when it comes to like certain pricing or how the process works when you do come in, make sure they know exactly what that looks like. And we've had situations where they call in and they say, well, do you have a x-ray machine? Can you do x-rays on site? I don't know. Let me go find out. Goes to a holding. Person hangs up. Why not? Like, It's real though. And then we've had that same clinic they called and said, do you have a doctor on staff? I'm not sure. Okay, well, that's not going to work out for you. So, and it seems like common sense, right? But it's common sense because you're part of building that business. The front desk was not part of building that business, so the common sense piece may not connect all the dots. And then also too, just having FAQs and cash pricing ready, just so they can be very quick. Because the second that you sit there and pause and you don't have the answer, they start to lose a little bit of trust or doubt. Like, does this person know what I'm asking for? And also too, it keeps the conversation moving. Because when you start pausing a conversation, it becomes harder to get them to do what you're hoping them to do. And so that's super important. And the same thing with insurance. Make sure you have a nice insurance list ready to go. So when somebody asks, they're confident. It's like, yes, we do take that insurance, or no, we do not take that insurance. By the way, since we don't take it, here's our cash price for what you're asking for. So it's just a very clean, but it gives confidence. A couple other things too. So here's some objectives that come through. I'll call back later. How do you overcome that side of things? Well, you say call back later. Is there anything reason why you can't come in now? And then they may have a legitimate reason, or they're just not sure. And so that's where the pricing may become a thing. We're like, oh, I didn't realize it was $300 for an SDI test. I thought it would be cheaper than that. That type of thing. And so you have to be ready for those questions, because they also say if they're calling and you have their solution, you're halfway there. If they're needing a test, yes, it's $300, but you also know like you're probably the best price or just within the best price of anybody else. They call, say, hey, I know like it sounds like $300 sounds like a lot, but we can get it done for you in about 30 minutes from now, and then you'll have your answer the same day. And that's what you really want. And they're willing to pay for that. A couple other things too, the long hold piece. So like I said, the cheat sheets, the scripts are important, but ultimately when you put somebody on hold, you're running out of time. And it's so easy to put somebody on hold because there's somebody standing and looking at me right now. And so, but the thing is that they're standing here looking at you, you have them a little longer than the person you have on the phone. So just making sure you take care of that. It just makes all the difference. These sound like little nuances, but they do make a difference and impact over time. Here's a neat little follow-up strategy. It does work, but you have to be super proactive about it. And I know there's some softwares that are working on this as well. But if you miss a call, if a front desk misses a call, they should call back. But they should only do it if they can do it in the next 15, 30 minutes. If it goes much beyond that, probably not worth the call. They've already moved on. But if they have like a missed call, why would you not call back? If you're in your own business and you weren't in an urgent care, just a normal business, and you have a missed call, you're probably going to call them back and see if like, sorry, I missed your call, what can I do for you? But in your scenario, you have less than an hour to do that because chances are they've moved on to the next one, or they're about to get into the car. But if you can stop them and get them to talk to you for just a minute, like, we can take care of you now. Okay, cool. So it sounds like a lot, but I've had feedback, and the ones that actually do this, it works. But they have to put something in place to make sure it's proactive and not reactive, if that makes sense. Sharice, do y'all do that at all in the callbacks?
Yeah, that's a
Yep.
good point for sure.
Yeah. And Ava, isn't Flip working on a system that calls it back?
Yeah, it's already live.
Yeah, so like software's out there to do some of this, but it is something that does make a difference. I'm sure you have cool stats related to it. But anyway, all right. So moving on. I know I'm moving a little quick on this, but it's all good. So what does it look like? So just talking about AI and so forth, and a little bring up for Ava there. So Flip's an example. There's lots of AI softwares out there, but they can handle things. They can handle calls, they can do scheduling, FAQs. They've gotten a lot better in the past 2 or 3 years. They're not perfect, but here's the thing. If the AI can't do it, people are wanting to talk to someone. Yes, the AI can take care of some of the riffraff or take care of the real simple calls. But the second it gets complicated and they're like, this is not helping me, they're going to talk to somebody. So they have to that's where it becomes super important. Because if they made it through an AI and AI is like, I can't do this, they're probably a little upset, maybe. And so when that person gets on live, they have to be on their game. And they can't be just as annoying as what they just went through. So you have to think through that when you have situations where the AI is wonderful, but then sometimes it's just not, and you want to make sure your people are ready for that. Does that make sense? Yeah. All right. Next thing you want to do on the side of things is how do you actually put this into play? So who in here has ever done role playing? Got some role players in here. Who in here has actually done role playing for your people, where you sat them down and went through it? Okay. Yeah. Cool. So where's the hiccup? Like when you do a role play, where do you find the hiccup to be when you become a very questionable patient that's trying to push on them, or are you always the nice patient that you're just trying to flow through the role? Well, what's been your experience?
It's, usually, we do the role plays, but it's the ugly patient.
The ugly patient. Yeah.
It's usually not the nice patient we're doing the scripts and the role playing, because I try to tell the team all the time is like, sometimes it's just switching the person too.
Yeah.
Sometimes two people just don't, and sometimes you get somebody else to come in and take over the conversation.
Mm-hmm.
Be totally different. The patient will be totally different to that second person.
Yeah.
And you still retain the person, and you don't have any more ugliness.
Yeah, I mean, it's real, because if they're calling a patient, potential patient's calling, they don't feel good most likely, or they're upset about something, and so there's a lot of overcoming usually, but chances are the urgent care has a solution that they're seeking. You just got to make that transaction as smooth as possible, and and we know this just in normal sales. The fewer obstacles and bumps they have to get over, the more likely they're going to do what you're hoping they're going to do, and just get them right to the end of the sales process, which is coming in and let us take care of you. But no, so that's super important. I think on role playing too, one of the things that we sometimes miss out is that we don't do it often enough. I mean, we may have done it right at the beginning to make sure that, oh, you understand it, cool. But they may get into a comfort or a rhythm, and then they forget the important pieces, or they forget, where the priorities sit. And so you have to come back to them and say, let's do some more role playing. And this is not something to beat people up on. It's more like, I just want to make it better for you. Because the more prepared you are, the better you'll probably enjoy your job, and not just having a reactive job. Call scripts and so forth. Anybody have call scripts for their business? No? No call scripting?
We just getting,
Yeah.
what to say with the phone right at first. We need to probably go more in depth with those to say with some of the frequently asked questions of with the script to say they like, especially with our STI, rapid cash price right now. There needs to be a more in-depth script there that we're learning to keep them to come in with not have this sticker shock of the price.
Yeah. Because I think a lot of people don't realize that cash pricing for a certain test are just high. And they're thinking, it's probably $50 now. It may be $50 for us, but not for the actual test. But yeah, that's real. And the call scripts too, where you have to go in and listen to your calls to kind of find the nuances of what's being missed. Do you ever go listen to calls?
I do.
Yeah.
As much as I would like.
Yeah, exactly.
I need to do more of it for sure.
Yeah, and thankfully there's more AI coming out where it can analyze calls for you and kind of give you better feedback, which speeds up the process, which is awesome. But no, when it matters though is that being proactive with the whole thing, because if you do it once when you first hire them, that's good, but then you have like an ongoing proactive approach to it. And it's hard because we all get busy, or you're thinking, well, they've done well, I haven't heard complaints, and yet you don't go back and just kind of check for yourself, because we all get complacent at certain parts of our lives, and so we may be really good at the beginning and just kind of slow it down and not realize it. So it's just a real thing. Other thing worth noting here too, so secret shop your clinic. Anybody ever do that? Ever secret shop your clinic? Yeah, couple. Is it good or bad experience? Probably both. Yeah, we've had some where they said, yeah, one clinic kills it and then my other location's horrible at it. And then the question becomes, why? Is it the person, or is it the training? Is it the culture in that clinic versus the other culture? And it's something they don't really always have an answer for, because they've never dug deep enough to find out. But we typically find that the ones that have secret shopped a bad clinic, their numbers are simply down. Like they could have better numbers, but they're just not there, versus a clinic that's always on. So it's just something worth noting. But as a side note too, so we have a podcast called Walk-Ins Welcome. On episode 148, there's an interview with Jessica Walker. Her entire business, Care Sherpa, is focused around secret shopping and doing the sales process for different types of clinics. But the insights that she gives in that episode is really good, so I do encourage you guys to go check that out. Alrighty. Very good. So just moving toward the end right here, so you can scan that and get some more information, which has the things that we've just talked about, which is the slides, call scripts, and so forth. And just take a scan there and take you there, or just take a picture and you can grab the link later. So I'll leave that up for just a second. Okay. All right. And then so take-home points for today's talk is your front desk is more than just reception. It's a sales team. They're the first point of getting that conversion to start happening, unless they just walk straight in. But even when they walk straight in, that first interaction of how are you, how can I help you matters. When you miss calls, you're losing money. And I think the industry average is 30% missed calls, which is like the standard acceptable average, which I don't think it's acceptable in my mind, but it is. But don't become the guy in Florida that has 70% missed calls, because what's the point? If you're spending all that money, what's the point? So just focus on that. I mean, I would encourage you even go look at your call log in your phone system and pull up missed calls. How many went missed, or how many went to a voicemail? Because in our eyes, going to voicemail is a missed call as well, because it kind of goes to nowhere land, and they may not call them back, which is just a missed call at that point. Next is just being proactive, making sure you have them think about proactive conversation, not reactive conversation. It makes a big difference. And then build up your system for training, where you want to make sure you yourself being proactive in how you train, or train the trainer. We have a client right now that has 8 locations. Went through this information with them, and then they trained their front desk trainer, and now they're on a weekly and monthly rotation to make sure all their people are being active on their training, and they're going in and listening to calls and making adjustments. It's all positive information though, right? You don't want to come at somebody saying you were terrible at your job. No, you weren't trained the way we wanted you to be trained, or you've forgotten your training. Let's fix that for you. And then, of course, when it seems appropriate, use AI to look at capturing additional calls when it makes sense to, because they can help flip things as well, and take care of that. But there you go, guys. That's my talk for today. I hope it was good information for you guys. Had a chance to record it. Any questions? Of course, Nick. Yeah.
The AI, the last thing that you mentioned. Can you throw call recordings in like ChatGPT, or is that going to be a different issue?
Probably technically a HIPAA issue, because ChatGPT can't control that data, right? Now you can get a redacted call recording that sucks out all the PHI information, but the reality of it is your software that is HIPAA compliant that can do call analysis can work, but taking a recording of a patient that called in and just throwing it straight into ChatGPT, that's dangerous, ultimately. So, yeah.
I came in late, so I don't think we talked about this, but one of the things I used to do with role playing that I think that, Flip does really well and we do well is making sure that there is no medical advice.
Yes.
Given over the phone, and that you create clarity of what is guidance on when to come into the clinic,
yep,
and where the line is on the receptionist giving medical advice.
Yes.
And so, for instance, the receptionist who said, I don't think we treat that.
Yeah.
That's not actually her call.
Exactly.
And so being really firm on, hey, you're giving medical advice and that's not your authority.
Well, and it's an instant throwaway, because if they're sitting there saying, I don't think we treat that, no, I think you're fine, just give it a day. Yeah. That's a lost patient. And you're also mistreating that patient, because they could have something far worse and you just ignored it, and they may have accepted that, ignoring, and then they get in worse shape.
Right.
So, yeah, I agree. 'Cause I think you had mentioned that in dinner, where they'll sit there and just talk about their problems and say, well, yeah, I guess I don't have to come in. No, that's not the point. So, but I get it though, because we've seen calls where like, why did this call go on for 8 minutes? And they're just having a full conversation. What's going on? It's like, this is breaking some type of law of some sort. So, but then you just lose that patient, because either they felt like they got the service they needed out of a call, which was not by a doctor of any stretch, or they just felt like they were being misled. So it's just, making sure that it's going for the sell, right? Going for that conversion, not so much, let me just be the doctor for 5 minutes. And that's not good. We see even we've had an attorney as a client in the past, and the call center was giving legal advice, not the attorney. It's the same, and that's a big no-no, right? Well, it's the same thing for urgent care and front desk every single time. Good, thank you. Anybody else? Awesome. Well, thank you guys so much for your time on this. Just taking time, especially toward the end of this SERUCA, when everybody's trying to head out. But I thank you for all that.
All righty. I hope you guys enjoyed that episode. Is your front desk doing what it's supposed to? Is it selling, getting those appointments to actually come in and not just say, come on in, we're just a walk-in, but you actually do take appointments? How did your front desk do? And if you're not entirely sure, just give them a quick cold call into your clinic and just secret shop them and see what happens. I hope this was a helpful episode. Can't wait to catch you on the next one. See ya.